talks through now. I forget to press the button every time I go live. I don't know why I do that, guys. I don't know why I do that. So we're going to do the usual. I'm going to check my mic because this is a supplemental dev diary. And I was in a rush to get ready to stream tonight. So hopefully the mic's working. You guys will tell me, I'm sure, in the chat as always, whether you can hear me. And if all's gone according to plan, you will hear me. We can see I'm either free on the screen. You can see the chat on the left-hand pane. I'm going to be looking between the two monitors as always to try and answer questions, and everyone will be happy. That's the overall plan for this evening, is to keep everybody happy. And it's just a small stream really to kind of talk to people about what's happening with Armada 3, because we went a little bit quiet, and everyone was like, "Where's the Dominion? Why aren't the Dominion here? Where's the they can just hear me." I'm going to adjust the mic a little bit. I'm going to adjust it up. This is always the problem. There's this giant microphone right next to me. It's probably not pointed close enough. You guys let me know if I'm too quiet, as always, when we start doing this. I hate microphones. I think everybody knows this, and I have no way. I should really check this before I stream. So there we go. Yeah, we can hear you, says Etta. So hopefully that's enough. Hopefully the mic's not getting in the way too much of my headset as well, and you guys can see my face and stuff like that. And you now see me adjust my mic. Okay, too quiet. Everyone is saying still. Let's have a look. So can we max this volume anymore? Come on, guys. Let's have a look. Properties. Let's do some audio tweakies here. Audio input capture. Let's crank that DV volume up a little bit. Da 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 da. Maybe not too much. Okay, good. Right, I'm going to face this. Hopefully everyone can hear me. I think that's the best I'm going to do at short notice. I'm looking at the peak on OBS. It's in the green. It's not in the yellow. It's not in the red. It says it's okay. So I don't know. We'll see where we are. So yeah, hi, welcome as always to another Dev Diary Supplemental. You are stuck with poor me. Look, my mic's already falling down. You're stuck with poor me, Bane. Again on my own. I feel a bit lonely sometimes. You know, I feel like, where is everybody? Where are my fellow devs? Why don't they like me anymore? Why are they not here with me? No, they're all busy. So they're all busy making mods for you guys. That's what they're doing. And everyone said to me, "What's going on with it? Why haven't we seen a Dominion video, Bane?" And the truth is, I had to go back to work, and thus things slowed down a little bit because work just gets in the way. You know, unfortunately, you got to earn that money. You got to pay those bills. And for those that don't know, in my personal life, I'm actually getting married this year, so I've got a wedding to plan as well, a mod to create, and a pandemic to survive. So it's been a bit of a crazy time for me. But I wanted to reassure you that if you're unsure whether we actually do anything on Armada 3 in this time, there is a commit channel on the Discord which often gives away what I'm up to and the code, and you'll see when I'm pushing things. So someone made the comment the other day that, "Bane, there hasn't been loads of commits for a while. I'm a bit worried about A3." And it wasn't that I hadn't done any work, it was that I was testing something really big. And as with all commits, I don't want to push it and break the build for the other developers until I'm actually ready with the code. So I was kind of like, no, do I push or do I don't push? Or, you know, so I ended up doing I think 7 pushes in a row on the commit channel, and everyone was like, "That was a lot of pushes. Well, there's a lot of pushes, Bane. What's going on?" Suddenly there's an explosion of work. But the truth is, I've been doing some big overhauls in the system, and I know it's a bit static at the moment, but I'm going to show you a few things tonight that I've been up to. The big one is, hi Samuel, it's good to see you. Hi Centurion, I should just look at the chat as well because I keep forget. I will scream my lungs out, Dead Soul, because that's what I do on stream. Yeah, effectively, I've been doing a massive overhaul with the playtesters on Heroes. So the weird thing is, we did all the videos for you guys of all the factions, and then we got to the end of it, and I was like, "We need to do Dominion," and then I was like, "I'm not quite happy with Heroes. The hero abilities, some of them kind of suck, and so I think we're going to overhaul the hero abilities a little bit." So, and that led to me going on this little adventure. So basically, all the faction videos are pretty much fine. However, I have changed a few things. So even though I did the factional videos, as always, the supplementals are important. What you're watching now, because if you watch and you follow, you'll find it a bit easier when it comes to final release. That being said, my plan is to do some demo games of Armada 3 where I just play Armada 3 in a video like this one night, and you guys can just tell me how bad a Sims player I am all night, and that's fine. I'm a good modder, but a terrible Sims player, and I know it. And we're just going to play and learn things later on, and that's going to come in a later stream when things are kind of more settled down. So what I've done with the heroes is I've tried to introduce, and this was actually, a lot of this is thanks to Caesar's Legion, who is my fellow developer on Armada 3. He, or Tom as you know him, he's been on the factional videos with me. He has done such a big overhaul of planets and planet infrastructure, and I'm just going to highlight my homeworld here, and looking at things like tax income rate, because what a lot of players don't tend to understand is how eco or economy, for its full name, works in Sims. And there are lots of factors when it comes to economy. There's your tax income rate, which obviously generates your credits per second, and that ends up in this lovely figure over here. And if you ever hovered over it, you'll see your credit summary, what your planets are bringing you in. And then you have your minerals. So in this case, as we call it in Armada 3, because we've changed the name to titanium and dilithium, so minerals and crystal. And again, you can see across your planetary worlds what's being generated. And I think what a lot of people didn't realise for a lot of time is that planets and planet income tax rate was actually what gave you the majority of your money in Armada 3 in comparison to like stock Sims. And then on the other side of it, people expected that if you put a trade station everywhere, that trade was really good. The truth is, trade actually wasn't that good in Armada 3. It's a myth that kind of has existed throughout Armada 3. And people see all the little trade ships flying out, they're like, that's cool, I'm getting loads of money. That's not actually the case. So often on certain worlds in the current release, it's far more profitable to build refineries or stick when you've got the code join stations, to stick it in refinery mode, because you actually get, if you look at the net costs, and if you've got black market turned on, obviously, to sell things, actually you can make more money by refining minerals than you could by actually having trade stations. So in Uprising, it's kind of balked at the moment, and let's be honest, Feds are the like powerhouse economy with credits anyway, because of all their bad mechanics that I built originally. And in this version, obviously Feds and the other factions are much more closely aligned, and like Romulans in particular were like big beneficiaries of planetary tax. So we've looked at the economy, and Tom's done a lot of work on planets and reshaping planets for the final version, so they make a little bit more sense. Because it is an area that what people don't get about Sims often is that Sims is actually about your planets. As much as it's about the cool beams flying across the place and ships everywhere, Sims planets are actually quite important. And let's be honest, one, how often do you actually zoom into your planets? Because like these are all custom textures that we made in Grand Designer for our planets in R3, so they're not even stock planets. And they look wonderful and beautiful if you ever zoomed in. Ooh, not too far. But two, these are the things that are actually going to have the most impact on the game, is these lovely giant balls that sit in the worlds. Obviously, ships are important as well, of course, but planets are really important. So what we try to do in the new version is overhaul planets, planet population, tax income rates, those kind of things. And the reason you're probably thinking, Bang, why are you going on about planets so much, is because the new heroes, I have put in abilities that separates the heroes. And when I say separates the heroes, it separates them from the other capital ships in the fact that the heroes have a lot more, now at least, planetary affecting abilities that are going to impact a planet. So, for example, if we look at Cisco, I had to look at how he works as a hero, and I wanted to introduce, and that's what I'm going to show you in a second, is these kind of like raiding heroes in the system. And so while I'm not going to go over all the hero snags, I'm going to do a separate video about it. I thought it was kind of important to talk about the impact of my tinkering on specific heroes, and we'll start with sort of Cisco in particular, to just right, go to my music. Tell me if the music's too loud in the background, guys. In fact, I might just turn it down because it's past my. Let's turn it down. There we go. So yeah.
Station complete. Station complete.
Just cheat my way
Station complete.
Yeah, so I've kind of impacted how planets work. Before I forget, let's just around, and here comes Cisco.
Cisco. Ahead. Full
How
impulse.
planets are impacted by our heroes. So I haven't finished all the icons and stuff. They're like, it's way too loud. Way too loud. Let's turn the music right down. There we go. You guys want to hear me?
The Klingon Empire reckon.
And we'll turn the effects down. And we'll turn the dialogue down. And we'll turn the UI down.
Recognizes your prowess.
And we'll pause it. Oh, that's a screenshot. That's not a pause. There we go. So I've kind of worked on this. Hopefully that's a little bit quiet now. If it's not, guys, let me know. Because there is a slight delay. I think it's like a 30-second delay. Wait a second. It'll catch up. I have tried turning up my audio, Samuel. So I'm just going to kill the music. I'm going to kill all the sound. Let's kill all the sound. It's far easier for me to just get on with what I want to do today. Okay, oh no, this ain't better. See, this is why I don't like that chat today. So anyway, I'm going to talk about Cisco. So Cisco has changed. Cisco has literally fundamentally changed, and his abilities have changed. So what we wanted to do was we first of all wanted to look at heroes. So the first thing I want to kind of point out before we even actually look at Cisco, if I go to my hero station now, is what you'll notice when you hover over a, to be fair, your mic sounds like an old radio car. It's probably not the game itself. Yeah, maybe it is my microphone. I don't know. I did change. I messed around with the decibel settings on the thing, and I like always have this problem whenever I come in here. Let's just put it back down. Doesn't see. This is why, guys, I should test my streaming kit more often when I do stuff, because clearly I break everything. Right. Okay. I give up after this, by the way. If it doesn't work after this point, I give up. Okay, so Cisco and the other heroes, you'll notice when I hover over them now that they now have costs. Heroes are no longer free. So you are going to pay for your heroes now in Armada 3.5 edition. You will no longer get them free. And yes, autocast will still be on. So my general advice to players is not to worry about it too much. If you get the credits, it will summon in Voyager Steel automatically. So the AI will summon in Voyager Steel and have all the heroes and stuff and so on and so forth. But it will cost you credits, and it will cost you supply, and as we already know, it costs you a capital ship slot. The other big change is all the maps now no longer give you a free hero. So if you may remember, if you think about the current version, just like Stocksins, when you load up into any map, you get your free one hero or whatever capital ship slots when you load into a map. That's gone. You don't get any free capital ship slots anymore. What you get is 0. You have to actually research to get your heroes, because what people were doing is they automatically assumed that an ambassador class, just because it's first in the tree, it's the first available, and you don't have to research it, that's a starter capital, and the starter capital has no value or no base value later on in the game, which is kind of sad because the ambassador is kind of an iconic ship. And on that point, the ambassador has changed, but I'll come on to that later. So I wanted to introduce heroes in a different faction, in a different function, and they now cost credits. So you'll notice that as you go up the heroes, the cost of the heroes actually increases. And you may say, well, they're quite expensive, and they are quite expensive, and they're supposed to be because they're heroes. So now there is some value in taking out heroes, because before people were just like, what's the point killing heroes? You'll just summon them back in again. Well, yeah, you can summon them back in still, as long as you have your fleet station, of course, because that's the other way to get rid of heroes, is kill the fleet station, because you only get one of them. And I'm okay with that, by the way. But you now have to pay the cost to have that hero back. So there's actually a real penalty for losing your heroes, and that's something you're going to have to factor in when you go to battle, and how you use your heroes becomes quite important. So that's the big thing, is heroes now cost money, and they cost quite a bit of money. Then we looked at how heroes interact with the game. And I think a lot of heroes became sort of a crutch for certain builds, certain fleets, and I didn't like the fact that people were saying to me as a developer, Bane, you can only play Borg if you take the free Borg heroes, and there is no point not take. You know, you always take heroes, and then for every faction it was Bane. I would take every hero always because they give so much to the faction. Now we still want heroes to feel valuable for the cost that they're attributed to, but at the same time we want heroes to perform different roles to our capital ships because then you devalue your capital ship fleet. So it's about how do you make what is effectively by our own creation 3 additional capital ship types have impact, but at the same time not so much impact that a player that doesn't have them or loses their fleet station loses out, but also make them interesting and varied in difference to the capital ships that you would put in your fleet. So we went upon the concept of we still want some heroes to work with fleets because iconically, if you think about the lore, if you think about Picard, genuinely, if you look across the films, he did work solo, sort of, but the most iconic film we can think of in terms of large-scale combat was First Contact, and maybe Nemesis, but mainly First Contact. And as soon as the Enterprise turns up, what does Picard do? He takes control of the fleet because the Admiral's dead, and then, summarily blows up a Borg cube because, plot and insider knowledge and all that. But he does that. And so we wanted to think about how each of the heroes function. So Picard is still pretty much a fleet hero. That's what he's kind of built for. And you pay the cost for that. And he gives you various buffs and debuffs for your fleet. Sisko, again, you could argue that Benjamin Sisko was a fleet captain, a fleet hero. The Defiant was in the Battle of Chintoka. He led various fleets. He was a captain that planned assaults. But also, if you think about Sisko as a character, he also did a lot of, in the war at least, which is what we're basing it on, does a lot of missions with the Defiant that aren't fleet-based. And he also, does a lot of missions where he's, like I give an example of where they had the Jen Hadar bug ship and he flew all the way to blow up the Cape Cell White facility. In that was great because that's when the Centaur was chasing him, and I loved that episode. Anyway, I digress. So he's very much a character that kind of does a lot of espionage as well in the series. And what we wanted to do was look at some of the heroes and say, right, what is the persona of the hero and their character? Because yes, you could all make them fleet captains. Pretty much, you could say that for all. Janeway becomes an admiral, but we wanted to make the heroes feel unique. So certain heroes are now designed to interact with these big balls here. They are designed to be what we call raiders. So they're gonna work differently. You can have them with the fleet, but you won't get the most benefit out of them if you use them just for the fleet. They have now powerful raiding abilities that interact with the planets, and this is something that specifically Caesar as well wanted to bring into. And I know Trash Tacticus is just kind of stealing my thunder here, but he's just mentioned something there that we're going to show. We're going to kind of talk a little bit about and not possibly show you because I haven't set it up, but I will do in the hero minute. We'll talk about things like the Trilithian Resin incident where he obviously assaulted the Marquis. So Sisko has become kind of a raider, and he still has his various abilities. So he still has his emissaries calling. And he gives a buff to a fleet. So he's still got that kind of fleet buff there. He's not lost that. He still is a pocket battleship, as in he's got something that keeps him alive. But what's more interesting is his final ability. Gone are the self-replicating mines. Now, some people will say, Bane, why did you get rid of self-replicating mines? I can tell you. Firstly, it bugs me, self-replicating mines. It was a great idea, but horribly abused. When it was very powerful, someone dropped it on a starbase, and because they kept replicating, it blew up an entire starbase. Not kind of what I intended. Ingenious use, thank you player base for doing so. So I had to nerf it. I then nerfed the ability, and now it's kind of like, well, they're not really that great, are they, Bane? They don't really do much, so why do you have them there? Because, what, plot? And then I think about it, and I'm like, Sisko didn't actually... He wasn't on the Defiant when the mines were being deployed. The mines were used, in one example, as a plot example, as often happens, is Star Trek, and he wasn't even on the Defiant. He was on DS9. Denziel was piloting the ship, well, captaining the ship. You know, so is the Mines a good ability to have for Cisco and his persona? And that's where Trash Tacticus pointed out, how do we look at Cisco's persona and how he acts? So I like to think he's my favourite captain, by the way, if you guys know what it's out. But I like to think that he's a bit more of a risk taker. He reminds me, there's a lot of vibes like Kirk with Cisco, isn't there? He's a bit of a rule breaker. He bends the rules. He's got a sense of duty, don't get me wrong. But he's got a sense of vengeance, you know, aggression. And while you can say that he works within the bounds of Prime Directive, he also is willing to bend those bounds to the extreme point. So he doesn't break it, but he does bend. And you can see various examples of this DS9, you know, the whole bringing the Romulans into the war. And you can see his passion for doing that and how angry he was at Garrett when Garrett basically blew up the ship and didn't tell him he was going to do it. So he doesn't like to break the Directive, but he does like to bend to that. And that's why I always like, yeah, he could be a renegade shepherd like a master. Yeah, he's a bit of a renegade. Now, Trash Tacticus kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier. We talked about how is he going to interact with planets, and I will point out that there are other factions. So Kern is a good example, Fotgor and the Dominion is a good example. You'll see that in the Dominion video. They've all changed, and they now have these buffs. So the one I've gone for, and again the icon still doesn't work, but is an ability called Forced Evac. And Forced Evac is a new way of interacting with your opponent's planets. So what we have is we have ability that's very tasteful to what happens. So in this example, rather than doing the trilithium resin, because, you know, one, it doesn't work against Cardassian, so if I gave him trilithium resin, it wouldn't make much sense if you're playing against a Union player. But we wanted to kind of like do the whole willing to bend the rules. So we kind of I combined it in my head and worked with Tom, and we came up with this. So we've got this kind of broadcaster fake sense there. So what it does is you target an enemy planet, it costs you quite a bit of antimatter, and it has quite a cooldown, but you target an enemy planet, he flies to that planet, he removes population. Now, when it says population removed, it actually, as you level it up, will remove a percentage of the population. So even though it says population removed a second, what it does is it removes a percentage of the population. So I think at max level, from memory, it was 75%. So it removes 75% of a planet's population. Now, if you don't know Sin's mechanics too well, let me just explain to you. Population is incredibly important on your planet. Now, in Armada 3, population grows quite quickly. And the more population you have, and you can see this since I've just even unpaused and repaused the stream, my tax income rate has now gone up. And if I social spec, my tax income rate goes even more because it's directly affected by the population on the planet. So if you can imagine, we've got Cisco here now removing at max level up to 75% of that population, which is damaged his income. And I say, well, that's great, Bane, but then it recovers so quickly. Why does that matter to me? Well, we also apply a population growth rate slow. Now, what I've done in all the raiders is I've put really long lasting effects on the planet. So you can see here there's a population growth rate minus of 150%. If you apply 150% slowdown to a planet that you've removed the population from and it lasts 10 minutes, it takes a long time for that buff to pass and for the planet to regrow its population. So it becomes quite a big factor. He now has an ability he can raid and really affect the economy of your opponent, whether that be an AI, because AI still reacts as well to these kind of effects, or whether it be a player. So it's a really powerful ability, and you'll see abilities like this now appearing on the heroes. So when we come to the hero video, you're going to see that you have some new abilities on your heroes that are directly designed for raiding. Okay, and that's kind of the way that we've gone in the recent updates. The recent weeks have been focusing on heroes, looking at their abilities. How can we make the heroes better and more functional? So that's just one of the things I wanted to kind of update you guys on and talk a little bit about what I've been up to, what I've been doing. So an overhaul of heroes. And just to kind of, because I'm very transparent. I can't give you a release date because I need to be transparent about my working patterns, and it's difficult to assess where we are. But I think, as I always say, we are close. It will be 2021. Don't panic. It's not going to be like 2022. It's not going to go that long. But we are sometime this year because the pandemic has affected the way we work in Solar Parallax. So we have these abilities to do, and so far we've done Feds, we've done Klingons, we've done Cardassian Union, and I'm about 2/3 of the way through the Union. So I've done Golden Cut, I've done Fort Gore, which I thoroughly love. I think Fort Gore is going to be such a different hero. The way he plays now for raiding is going to be so immense. And then the one I've got to do is Wayoon. So I'm still looking at Wayoon and how we make him more interesting overall. So, and as I always say to you guys, you're not always going to agree with the changes that we make. So, and Trash has raised another excellent question. What happens if you destroy the planet, or so you bomb the planet out? Does the buff stay there? The buff stays there. So yes, that buff will apply to you, Trash. If you have if you have forced evacuation, if you have, and the other abilities are far worse. We're talking things like failure on weaponry and stuff like that. If you've decimated the planet, that buff will still stay, even if you capture it. So you've got to think about what you're doing, where you're using it, and how vital it is. Which is why we call them the concept of raiders, because it's quite easy to change the course of a game by sneaking fleets in or rushing through to other worlds. And of course, what we always say is this enhances the value of scouting and helps break away from the I'm going to build a big death ball and not really care about if someone flies all the way to my home world. I think if you lost 75% of your population on your home world, you would care. I'd like to think you'd care because it will grossly affect your economy, and that's the point. We're working out ways to use the Sims mechanics to actually make you play the game in a different, or to think about how you play the game. So yeah, you can still build your death ball, but then if there's a player like myself or another friend that recognises the value in these abilities, you may become a problem if you leave your homeworld undefended. And I think that's a good change. I think that's a good thing for the game. I think that's a good thing for the final version. And I think that players need to adapt how they view Sims. And this has always been a Sims problem that every modder in the Sims community has come across is how do we get players to stop building giant death balls and get them to defend territory and to see the value in, and this is the problem with Sims in general, how do you get them to see the value in these and these stations that exist and not just focus on the giant pew mess in one far off gravity world. So it's an interesting concept. I know people in particular will, and I can see Cyan already asking why is that buff still applied. This one is the most gentle of described abilities, I will say, for the Raiders. It's a forced evac, fake sensor data. Yes, you could argue that the Feds would still colonise it. The other raiding abilities tend to be written in a way, from the string perspective and effect perspective, that they're actually dumping some kind of giant bomb, chemical, nuclear, whatever way you want to look at it, radiation on the planet, or they're destroying buildings on the planet, thus affecting the 10-minute buff. So obviously, if you're a military aggressor and you go and blow up all the power plants in the country you're invading, guess what? You're going to need to rebuild all the power plants in the country you're invading. So those other abilities, I would say, Cyan, to answer that, in that you have to, just take it with a pinch of salt that the reason we're doing this is the thing we want to achieve is that there's a 10-minute debuff on a planet. So you are making a conscious choice as a player about how you affect planets in Sims. And that's new. And it's a little bit scary. I'm not going to lie, it's a little bit scary for players that haven't really thought about their planets before. Will that stop you playing the game, as I said, the way you played it before? No, not really. Will it give you another string to your bow? Absolutely it will. If you want to use these raiders, you can. But as I said, these are now costed heroes. No one says you have to summon Cisco in. This is a choice that you have. I still would summon in myself because I like the idea of going out there, exploring the galaxy, and if I'm at war, I definitely want to sneak around the back, and try and disrupt the enemy's economy, the enemy's supply lines. That is the art of strategy, if you like. And I want A3 to have those elements of strategy as a motto. This at the end of the day, we always say that we love the fact that people love our game, but the game is an extension of our core beliefs, our mindset, how we would see Star Trek. And not everybody likes the way we see Star Trek. That's the truth of it, guys. Some of you don't like the things that I do, and that's okay. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with the fact that Trek is something for everyone, and you don't have to agree with the way someone perceives a sci-fi universe. So there's a lot of influence there. So that's kind of one of the things. I think I will just see if I can get in. He says Janeway as well. I might get attacked because I've really not looked too much at the galaxy. I don't even know who's in this map at the moment. So I shall wait for the cooldown to come off, and hopefully we'll end up with Janeway as well. So there's a lot that's changed in terms of planets and heroes and the way they kind of work. No, Samuel, I think you're misunderstanding. The debuff, the way we've designed it, is even if you just scuttle the worlds, the debuff stays. It doesn't apply to the planet. So it doesn't matter if you're owning it or the enemy's owning it. It just doesn't matter. So even if you get rid of the world, the debuff's still on the planet because it applies to the planet. And as I said, some people won't like that. Some people won't like that at all. My base is just building now because I obviously didn't do it for a while, and after a while it decides it's going to build it. What? Come on, Janeway, taking ages. Oh, why my computer's lagging a little bit. There's Janeway. Janeway is now here. So I'm not going to show you all the heroes, as I said. I'm going to do a separate hero video, but I do like to show some of the stuff and some of the changes because it has been a lot of work. So the big one for Janeway is the Delta Flyer. So Delta Flyer, before you went to the squadron management, and that's the other next big change that we've done is we've actually removed a lot of the squadrons from the capital ships. So the carriers still have their core value, and the smaller carriers like the carrier still have their core value. Again, yes, you can argue that every Starfleet ship especially seems to have like a bazillion shuttles in a shuttle bay, but we didn't want to make that such a thing because Feds already get handed defences anyway. So and that's the thing. So Samuel's saying, why would you exist on the planet that is removed? Because, as I said, other than the Cisco one in particular, the rest are things like radiation. So if all the people die on the planet and you've got the radiation on the planet, the radiation's still on the planet. It doesn't just go because you decide to scuttle the world or you use the world. The radiation's still there. The radiation lasts 10 minutes. That kind of thing. As the Cisco one, yes, I get it. The wording is a bit hard, but there's a limit on what we can achieve with the engine at the end of the day. And so that's the ability. Bear in mind that you might not take the enemy planet, and if you might leave the planet alive. And even again, if you're the opposing player that's had it used on you, you might, as you said, try to scout on the planet and then recolonize it to get rid of the buff, but that doesn't work. So if you just recolonize, if you scouted it and recolonize it, you're just wasting your own time. There we go. So that's the impact. Anywho, as I said, so we got rid of the fighters on a lot of the ships, and what we've done is we've reworked the ability. So now you can actually get an ability. What was it? That actually summons the Delta Flyer. So the Delta Flyer is here. And what we've done, or what I've done, I say because this was my change, is you now have a Delta Flyer that is a separate ship. It's a ship that you can fly around and everything. Here is the Delta Flyer. And the Delta Flyer now has Fire Fleet, which you've got. And then you've got target weapons array, and you've got point defense system. So Delta Flyer is kind of like very, very cool now. It's not just like a token thing in there. This model was actually, I think this model was done by Hobbs, if I remember right. And I was like, the Delta Flyer was quite prominent in the series. We need to make it more prominent. So you summon the Delta Flyer now. It has the Hollow Fleet. It has target weapons array. So Janeway's not lost anything. In fact, if anything, Janeway's gained. And actually, if you take this to level 4, you can have the Delta Flyer out indefinitely. It's like having a whole extra ship. So that's what we've done there. And then with Janeway, I got rid of the sensor probes that kind of distribute as well. And again, this is a big change. People like that kind of, but it was a bit hit and miss again. So what I've done is I've now given them a Type 10 probe, and this is powerful. People don't realise that half of winning sims a lot of the time is actually, knowledge is power and scouting is important. So this one is now an ability. It's got a long cooldown. You can see that's 480 seconds. What it does is it allows you to launch a Type 10 probe to any gravity well on the map, and you will get vision of that, okay, for a long time, and also it will affect trade income and culture spread rate. So there you've got another powerful hero ability that targets unknown enemy planets that basically sends a probe there, gives you vision, messes with their trade, messes with their culture. So there we go. That's the whole thing about it. I think it's kind of interesting, quite fun, and slightly different. And boys like to sort of deploy probes everywhere. And then we have the standard ablative generator, because if I get rid of that, you guys would probably like hunt me up somewhere by a balcony, by a big rope or something like that. So we kept the ablative generators, but we've given Janeway a little bit more flavour. So this is the kind of, I just want to give you those kind of two examples. Yeah, 240 seconds of vision. I know, it's impressive. So does the Delta Flyer not? Well, no, doesn't. If Voyager walks out, Delta Flyer stays until the buff runs out. So you can blow up Voyager. I mean, you could try and blow up Voyager because of ablative generators, but this is a separate ship, and you can see it's quite a tanky ship as well. So, but there is a timer on it. So once the timer runs out, Delta Flyer goes. So there we go. So that's kind of where we're at. And I can see people going, well, that's really powerful, babe. Well, yes, but you're paying 5,000 credits for Voyager, and you're going to have to level it up, and so on and so forth. So these all seem powerful, but then if every hero has abilities of a similar level, they're meant to be heroes at the end of the day. And all the abilities have changed for the heroes from being about what happens necessarily directly in combat to what happens on the map. So that's one of the things you need to kind of think about. Now, bearing in mind that we do have playtesters. So, anything you see here, we have playtesters. And I know Etters is in the chat, for example, as a playtester. And the playtesters are there to test the mod and the balance of the mod regularly, as well as the devs. So, and as I said, we are going to have kind of like a beta release phase at some point when I feel we're ready to do that, where people can just give genuine feedback, and that's how we want to do it. So there are some powerful new abilities. Some are quite scary. This is just the start. As I said, some of the things to chew on and see as an update. Now, away from heroes, a lot of people for a long time have asked for one other thing. And while we're not going to make it playable in the mod, what I wanted to do was look at the minor faction a little bit more. And I just wanted to divert your attention to the Terran Empire faction. So, everyone said to me, I really love the Terran Empire, mate. It'd be great if there was more Terran Empire in the game. So, I had to bend. You would not believe how much I had to twist Mr. Max Loaf's arm to get this done. But after I twisted it severely, I just want to show you this off. So this here is a Terran Empire. That's right, a Terran Empire, Norway. And look at the patterning. People, the patterning on the ship. It is phenomenal. Terran Empire. I love it. Okay. So that's one ship. But it doesn't stop there because we went a little bit more silly. This here is a Terran Empire Saber class. That's right. Yes. Terran Empire Saber class. Yes. And that wasn't all. If I zoom out, you now have, that's right, a Terran Empire Akira class. That's right. You can see the paneling. There is paneling everywhere. That is a Terran Empire Akira class. Oh, and you thought that was good, but not only did we get that, we have a Prometheus class as well in Terran Empire patterning. Interestingly, I'm not going to show it off today because I'll show it off at some point, but yes, when this ship splits, it does have Terran Empire patterns on all of its component pieces. I know, thank me later. But thank Max, seriously, guys, if you're watching the video and you want to leave a comment once the video's gone and it's been stored on YouTube to thank Max, do that. Or you want to message him in the Discord and say, Max, thank you for giving me Terran Empire ships in the minor faction. We love you, we appreciate you. Please do that, guys, because every little bit of thanks you give to Max generally means I get some of his time, and he's a really busy guy for Armada 3. He's done so much recently for Armada 3. We really appreciate it. He's changed all the warp sound effects. Literally, I need to do a whole video on warp sound effects. Like every different, like the Prometheus and the Nebula, different sound effects for the warp engines. So you've got like the, and if you go back, you've got like the older warp sound effects for like the older Federation ships. You've got the sort of TNG era warp sound effects, and then for the ships like Excalibur, Prometheus, like the really cutting edge ships, they have a different warp sound effect. That's right, just warping. Now, I don't know many mods that go to that much effort. So, you know, have all of that to thank Max for. And of course, it wouldn't be remiss of me to say that we've overhauled the minor factions. Look at them, they're just glory. Look at the glory of it. But I did want to note that you might not want to mess particularly with this minor faction because we went a little bit crazy and we kind of gave it the special event. That's right, the special event Sovereign with the triple nacelle. So yeah, so don't mess with the best because the best don't mess. And you know, the minor factions have been. I don't know what's going on with this one. I know just check the template, but a bit beefed up a little bit, you could say, because a lot of complaints came in saying it's really easy to conquer a minor faction. So that's a big change to the Terran Empire. I'll just zoom in one more time so you can see the glory of the Terran Empire fleet. Look at it, all that yellow. So wonderful, so lovely. But there we are. Terran Empire ships. You asked for it, guys, for a long time. You now have Terran Empire ships en masse with all the lovely logos. Okay, and actually, you know, there's been a lot of changes to various factions. You now have the Obsidian Order. I will just note that you have here, and I actually am going to get some, hopefully, some textures done for the Obsidian Order as well at some point. So we've got all the correct Obsidian Order logos and stuff like that. So there's some stuff that Hobbs is doing for me as well. But this is the Miraculinaur. You can tell it's a Miraculinaur because if you look at the hull and shields, it's absolutely stonking. So you remember the mirror events that are in Uprising? You may have seen them really well if you had random events on. They now have the mirror ships a lot of the time in the secret factions instead. So that's one of the things that we changed is buffing up the abilities that the minor faction has. And I think what I can show you is my other new feature, and that was a big change. It took me a while to kind of come to the decision, but how do you interact with minor factions? So I'm going to try and get an envoy out, and I'm just going slightly blind as always, looking for the envoy. Where are you? Where are you, envoy? On my menu. Blah 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 blah. Envoy challenger. That's the one I want. So. So here is my envoy. Da, da, da. Let me select. There you go. So if we just pause it for a second. So how have the envoys changed? Well, envoys still give you a relationship increase if you send them to your friends, and they still have different magnitude, but they now have a new ability, which is called Establish Embassy. So I want to show you kind of what we're going to do. We're going to establish an embassy. I need to select the well. I'm going to establish an embassy here. Boom. There we go. Whew. Got that out in time. I've established an embassy. Okay. And when I establish an embassy at my minor faction, well, just as before, where you had to leave an envoy in the well, which didn't make much sense to me because why would you leave an envoy in the well? You now leave an embassy in the well. That's what you do. So you now, let's wait for my autosave to finish. You now leave an embassy in the well. So here is my Federation embassy in the well. And I've given every faction, and again, we've got a new model for the Cleon. So those who are saying, wow, Bang, why is the Cleon command station for the heroes? Why is it a comm station? Are you guys just not bothered to do one for the Cleons? Well, we now have one for the Cleons. I actually, once again, begged Max. Thank you, Max. We love you. I begged Max, and I said, Max, can I please have a new command station for A3? I know you're busy, but could you find the time to build one? And he was like, Bane, for you, I'm going to build one for the players because they deserve it. So, yes, you now have a custom Klingon, thankfully, embassy, finally. Embassy / hero station. So yeah, now you deploy your embassies, and they have a relationship increase. That doesn't mean that the challenger doesn't do relationship increase. So this is the thing. Yes, can you deploy an embassy at another player's world if you're playing a multiplayer game? Yes, you can. You get double bubble. You get double bubble because you're going to get a relationship bonus from the embassy and a relationship bonus from the ship. Now, we have implemented the system, so all those cheeky people out there that are thinking, I'm just going to plant 20 embassies in my friend's world, that doesn't work. So you can't be planting 20 of them in a row just by waiting for the ability to cool down. In fact, it won't let you do it, and it won't let the other envoys do it there with you. It's very clever. You can see it's now disabled. Yes, so none of that cheeky shenanigans. I've had enough of that. I've had 8 years of that. No more cheeky shenanigans for player base, please. Thank you. But you can deploy an embassy in each one. You can deploy one in each of the players' world. You can go around the universe and just start deploying embassies. Because why not? Why not have an embassy per planet? That's fine. And you can leave the envoy there as well, so you get double bubble. So we wanted to make embassies a thing. You now have embassies. You can still, you still got your heroes here. They can still do diplomatic functions. And I don't think people actually look at half of these abilities. They're very much like the stock ones that you can do some cool things with envoys. And it's still got diplomatic immunity as well. So now I am friends with the Obsidian Order. It's a good thing, And of course, if I'm friends with the Obsidian Order, somewhere in here, wherever he's gone, will be there he is, my giant Kulinor capital. Very powerful ship. So yeah, you could say minor factions have been a little bit more powerful if you control them, and I think that's interesting. And of course, you then get the abilities like covert espionage, sabotage, systemic disdain. There's all these kind of abilities that are in here. I still need to do some more work on the planetary abilities, so they're not fully finished yet. But is it worth having minor factions? I think so. I'm not saying you have to use them in every game. I'm certainly not saying you have to use rampant militia in every game. But if you've got the DLCs and you want to play with them, they're there. So give it a go. Give us your feedback. And on the rampant militia front, I also did a lot of work fixing rampant militia as well. So there shouldn't be as many rampant militia as there was in A3 because I don't think I ever set it up correctly. The original, well, I wasn't around for Uprising, so but I don't think rampant militia in general from that DLC. I'm going to name the DLC and actually introduce it. I don't think I ever set it up right. So I've tried to trim down the numbers a little bit and make them a bit more meaningful. And for those that don't know, rampant militia basically means that if there's a neutral there on a timer, they'll send ships that they spawn to attack the worlds around them, and so on and so forth. It's designed to make it more warfare-y. So if you play a bit on, it's kind of been tweaked a little bit more. What happened to Unity Starbase? Unity Starbase was removed in a version, it's probably about 3-4 versions ago, and the reason being is the AI would just never build it. You couldn't get them to build it, or you get them to build it and then they'd never build the mushroom starbase. So you'd end up in a situation where the AI would just not like having two different starbases. So in the end, we decided that we would remove it, and at the time, the ability was way too powerful because it kind of gave the vision of the entire galaxy. So we removed it, and while it's a nice piece of Armada history in terms of we had it in, everything is in the sake of balancing the game so that it's actually good and fun to play. So that's another one that goes. Things come and go in Armada 3. The fact is, if you really want to see Unity Starbase, there is an old version. We keep all our old versions of ModDB. You can always go back and play an old version. That's what I always say. Same with self-replicating mines. When this version comes out, if you miss your self-replicating mines, nothing stops you downloading Uprising. I'm not going to remove it from ModDB. They're still there. So, yeah. So we have a lot to be, as I was saying, we have a lot to be thankful to Max for. And there's a lot of cool little features that are being worked on. Now, I did have a question from the audience earlier, and I'm going to find it. There was a question that came in, I think it was from Draconian, and he asked me something about AOTF, and I did ask the guys, the devs that are working on AOTF specifically, the question was, when it's question time, blah blah blah, he said he can't check the stream. Will the new version of ATF require the remastered pack to be downloaded and installed alongside, or will it be launched in the new install version? And Max's reply was, it will be included and it will be pre-packed. So hopefully, Draconian, that answers your question. Yeah, let me know. And mods know, if you've got any questions, guys, you can put them in the Discord channels and we will do our best to answer them. And yeah, that's great. So anyway, I'm rabbiting on as always. I think that covers most of the kind of update I wanted to show you. So where are we at? So I've got Romulan heroes still to finish off. I've got Borg heroes still to finish off. The Borg ones are an interesting one. There's been a lot of changes on the Borg faction again. Even after the Borg factional video, I have looked at how can I get players to have more Borg cubes without making it entirely broken. So I have looked at increasing the amount of Borg cubes you can have, and so that's a new change that you'll see coming. Is that I worked out the other day, you can now build with the supply changes across the board. If you didn't build hero instances, I think you can build 9 Borg cubes, assimilation cubes, not tactical, a bit too powerful for tactical. So you can build 9 Borg cubes, and I did find it quite funny that you could build 9 Borg cubes and take them into your opponent as well. It's kind of fun in the game. They're still beatable. I managed to build a full Federation fleet, and I was testing this with Rob, and I think Brian, who's enters in the chat, was there as well. And we managed to kill the Borg fleet with focus fire. So yeah, it's there's more Borg for those that love the big ships, and that's only a good thing. And again, there's been a bit of work on the Borg overall. I like to tweak the Borg to get them right, but they're a hard faction to get right. And so the Borg heroes I'm leaving to last because I just think the Borg rely on the Borg heroes a bit too much as a crutch, rather than again making them feel more of a utility pick, like all the heroes should be. Like you should feel like you can play the Borg without the heroes, but the heroes give you some utility. So they're the hard ones to get done. So Robin is a Borg on my list because a lot of people say to me, well, Bang, Tomalok and Celia are quite boring. And I'm like, well, they're not. They've got some good abilities, but granted, one of their abilities, especially Tomalok's, is kind of it's okay. So got some ideas for them that I want to implement. So the Minion faction vid coming out, Jim. Well, it's funny you should mention that. Once I have finished Wayne, which is my last hero to do, I actually am ready to do a Dominion faction vid. So that's the big one. I have promised that I would not do it without Tom and Rob, mainly because I think we have a really good rapport when we do the factional reviews. I've got all the background created for the YouTube video, by the way. I asked Hobbsy to create that for me, so I've got that. Thank you, Hobbsy. So yeah, I want to do it with Rob and Tom once Wayne is done. I've got a lot of work on this week for my real life job, but I'm hoping at the weekend I can get to Wayne, get his abilities finished, and then we want to do a factional review. The problem with the faction reviews is there are lots of tweaks. So as I said, if we tweak the heroes now, like we'll do the factional review, we'll go through the hero abilities, but then it may be that the hero abilities get tweaked up or down depending on how strong they are, because we're reliant on the playtest and feedback. But I think there's quite a bit of change on the minion side. And if you guys remember in my last supplemental video, I did the kind of thing about the PDF with the game manual, and even the game manual has had to change a bit because I've retweaked some of the armor settings and things like that. So there's a bit of work gone into the manual as well, just to make it clearer. And we're going to have a look at how we just make that manual even better. So there's a lot of work in the background on the Armada 3 that I think people haven't seen or understood, but you know, hopefully people really appreciate the fact that we want to do a good job and we want to take our time with it. There's some more Terran Empire. Yeah, we want to do it right, and we want to have a balanced and fun and engaging mod. So we're taking our time for that very, very recently. And it is a lot of work. This is probably, because I think about when I started this at the request in the multiplayer community, and then it turned into a full development cycle. It's probably been a year of work already for me. And a lot of that was done in furlough, so while I was off work because of the pandemic. So it's been a lot of work done, and we're closer. I mean, if you think about it, we've overhauled pretty much every major system in A3, from research to antimatter, to the heroes and how the heroes interact, to adding new content in like Terran Empire designs and textures, I just thought of one more thing that I can show on the stream. I wasn't thinking about this earlier. So there was quite a lot of feedback, right, about oh my word, that's bioships, don't want to go there. There's quite a lot of feedback. I'm going to try to find a world that I won't like. There you go. That's Solar. This guy. Yeah, you'll do. You've got Marky. There's quite a lot of feedback about people was like, it doesn't feel really cool, Bane, to have 2 Keldons. So I had again. Max has done that. I can't tell you how much I've annoyed Max recently by begging him for things. So I spoke to Max and I was like, please sir, can I have a different ship for Armada 3? Maybe can we nick one from OTF 2 from the Cardassian roster? Because you've made loads of spoonhead ships, man, and they're really cool. So we have a a new ship for the Cardassians to replace the Keldon heavy cruiser, and here she is in all its glory. Stream. Let me introduce you to the Ratar heavy cruiser, which is an AOTF2 model imported into A3. There she is. She's a beautiful ship. She has the same abilities as the Keldon heavy cruiser variant. So the Keldon still in is a capital. So I haven't got rid of the Keldon capital, but for the cruiser we now have the Ratar, and she has point defense. She has the spiral wave line. So that is another chain. Look at her and all her Cardassian glory. And she's quite a cool ship, which I think you guys would appreciate and like the fact that we've put it in. Yeah, that's got a target, a capital ship. That's a cool bet. So yeah, I think that's everything I wanted to talk about really, and obviously she's got a blue shield by the way, if anyone says it, because I've spawned her on the Federation, and she'll spawn the Federation. But yeah, that's another thing that we've done. So there's some new models. Anything else really to mention in the update? No, I think that is it, guys. So I guess for the last part of the stream, I'll just hand over to like. Oh, sorry, if I got away from the mic again. Questions. Does anyone have any other questions for me? If not, we shall bring this glorious show to an end. I wait for questions in chat. I shall give you a few minutes. Stream chat lag to catch up and all that stuff. So I will sort my mic out for next time. I promise you, it's on my list of things to do. In fact, I might just buy a new mic. Isn't that right, Mike? Wait for my mic. So I don't know why I have so many problems with my mic. I don't know how I can make it better, but it's on my list of things to look into. Yeah, test your mic, manage sound devices. Mic. I think I've turned it up as much as it can go. Yeah. Don't know. Don't know at all why it's so quiet. Any questions? It doesn't look like we've got any questions, so that's fine, guys. I'm happy to call it here. And thank you once again for attending our quick A3 Dev Diary Supplemental, and for being such awesome people and being so patient for the mod. As always, I do apologise it's taken a while to get to your hands, but as I said, I want to make sure it's the best mod it can be. There's still quite a bit of work to do, and we will absolutely do what we can to get it to you as quickly as possible with as much quality as we can. Oh, I got a question right at the end. Does the Terran have collies in the Constitution class? It does not. But if you want the Constitution class, you should check out our other mod, Ages of the Federation. That's where I'm going to go with that one. But yeah, I've enjoyed spending a little bit of time with you guys. It's been a good hour chatting. Thank you so much for coming here, seeing the stream and that. Keep supporting Stellar Paradox. Join us on Discord if you haven't joined us on Discord. And hopefully, guys, we shall see you in the future again soon. So as for now, this is Bane, as always. So good night and signing out.